Hi, can you hear me, XRP? Can you hear me now? Oh, good. You guys can hear me, yeah? That's good. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened there. Good. Not sure what happened there. Anyway, Maneco 64 here, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. That's good. You can hear me. I don't know what happened there. The title of my live stream is The Repo Crisis is a Symptom of Asset Price Deflation. I was thinking earlier this week about why is the repo market such a problem? And if you think about what the repo market is, hi everyone, sorry about that. I don't know what happened there. The sound wasn't on. Nice to see everyone come back here. I had to do another live stream, so you just forget about the other one. Anyway, let's just wait for people to come on. Hi, Isabella. Nice to see you. Isabella from Austria or Österreich, right, Isabella? We've got Therese Gilmore from Alabama. How diverse is that? Austria and Alabama, even though the Austrian School of Economics, the Mises Institute is in Alabama, right? That's great. Isabella can hear me now. That's great. Hopefully people will come back on. London, Ontario. There's another London. I'm in London, England. Kay Johnston is in London, Ontario. Vintage Notes Smith from California. I was reading an interesting article saying that talking about California, whatever happens in California will happen in the United States, and how California is really divided as well. Ryan from Northern Ireland, great to see people from Ulster or Northern Ireland. Great sound now, that's good. Just to let you know, Billy didn't want to be here tonight. He wanted to stay in the kitchen with my wife and my daughter, so I wasn't going to force him. He was in the earlier thumbnail, but there you go. He's got his own free will, Billy. Blunt News, Portuguese from Toronto. Well, you know, I'm on my dad's side of the family, we're Italian, but on my mother's side, my grandfather was Portuguese. So there you go. Parlando from Belgium. Kiar Ryder from Burning, California. Yeah, I think that's like a organized crisis, right? I think that is. They're trying to. Yeah, I've read I've listened a lot to. I don't know if you've heard of Tavares. She talks about. I forgot her first name, but she talks about how PG&E they're owned by the Rothschilds, and they're doing this on purpose to. To like force Californians to go off the grid or whatever, to force climate change rules on them. Andy Tuesday, your knowledge, sir. Well, Andy, thank you. I guess I've been around for a while, 55 years, but I try my best. I try to keep an open mind. Gold Stacker from Copenhagen, or as the Danes would say, is it Schopenham, right? Schopenham, Copenhagen. Can't afford it. That's a good mnemonic there. Columbus, Ohio. I've been to Ohio, but not Columbus. I've been to Cleveland many years ago. Actually, I'll talk a little bit about Cleveland, Ohio, because it's quite appropriate for what's going on in my family right now. Back in the early 70s, mid 70s, my sister had to have an open heart surgery, and my dad took us all to Cleveland, Ohio. Cleveland Clinic was the best for heart ops. And Dr. Effler, that was the doctor that operated on my sister, did a great job. Unfortunately, my sister has had to have another heart operation last week. She's what, 58? She's a bit older than me. And the doctors in Switzerland said, whoever did your operation did a great job, but you need to do it again. So my sister, she went through another heart operation. She's recovering. It's going to take a long time for her to recover, about 3 months. But I remember I met Dr. Effler with my dad a few years later, back in the early 80s. He was from Syracuse, New York. He moved from Cleveland to Syracuse. And one interesting story he told us is that he had to operate on the king of Saudi Arabia, right? In the 70s as well. And he used to travel to Saudi Arabia as well, quite a bit. And guess what the king of Saudi Arabia liked to do? He liked to drink whiskey. And the only way he could drink whiskey was if Dr. Effler would give him a prescription. So there you go, a little bit of history about that. And it just goes to show that these people are hypocritical, aren't they? They're like radicals about drinking and everything, but they'll have a drink and they'll make an excuse. So that's a little bit of history there about Ohio. And I remember when we went to Ohio, to the Cleveland Clinic, it was in the winter, and I'd never seen as much snow as I had being from Brazil. So there we go. That's an interesting story there. I hope you guys didn't find it boring. Just giving you a little bit of information about myself. So I'm going to try to see, have a look at some questions. We got quite a few people here already, 175. Gaia Planetary Station from Brazil. Great to see people from Brazil. That's where I grew up. Deborah, Dave Davies. No picked up some more gold. That's good. No, if you can do that, that's great. The Poltz family from Denmark. Great to see you. Denmark. I've been to Denmark, but many years ago when I was a little boy, I went to the Tivoli Park. But professionally, I used to do business with some Danish people. They used to Danish banks. One of my bosses in London when I was a futures broker, he was Danish. He used to Bjorn was his first name, by the way. I don't play soccer. No. I'm more into golf, actually. NDT expert. I'm more into golf, even though I like soccer or football. Let's have a look. MP, explain asset deflation. Hey, MP, good question there, because that's the title of my video. I think the repo market, because what's the repo market? Repo market is the fraudulent financing for Wall Street and the current credit-based economy. And why do I say fraudulent? Well, not really fraudulent, but very dangerous kind of financing. And why is it dangerous? Well, because you're borrowing overnight and you keep borrowing every night, right, to finance long-term investments. And that's not a good thing. If you want to be a sound banker or do sound investing, and if you're going to borrow, let's say you buy an asset that has a 5-year life, right? You should borrow for 5 years. You should match that. And what I think the repo market problems is that longer term assets are under threat and people are trying to get out of them. And so they're not, they're trying, and they're not finding people to lend them in the short term, because people know that those longer term assets, at least the people in the markets, know that there's trouble. And that's why the Fed has had to intervene with 60 billion of QE and another 145 billion of repos. And that's what And that's what I think is happening. I think the system is imploding, and I think it's going to get worse. I don't know when it's going to happen, but it's going to get worse. Xenorman, thank you for the super chat donation there, Xenorman. I appreciate that. And the Fed give us back our money. Yeah. I signed up to this thing called Word Genius, and I always get emails. Every day I get like a different word. And I think yesterday I got a word called abrogate, ABROGATE, abrogate. And that actually means to abolish. But so that's the same thing, abrogate the Fed. But end the Fed sounds better, doesn't it? But yeah, the Fed, the Bank of England, central bank, we don't need central banks. Central banks only create moral hazard. They encourage bad actions by bankers, right? They misbehave because they know they're going to be bailed out. It's like a spoiled, rotten kid, right? You can't spoil your I guess people do spoil their children, and I'm how can I say, I've done that. I spoiled my daughter, of course, but you need to let them stand up for themselves, and that's what central bankers do. They spoil the bankers, and unfortunately they need to go. Let's see if I can Jeff Brown, I haven't heard from Glint yet. The thing about Glint is they're under administration, and there's not much information out there. I'm disappointed about it. I thought it was a good setup, but it just made me realize that I was right for myself, at least. I didn't keep much at Glint. I still believe in having physical. John Norris says abrogate is a very important word. Yeah, I know, but I think it's better to say end the Fed than abrogate the Fed. I think you get more response from the general public, if you know what I mean. Yes, Isabella, central banks enslave us. Well, central banking is one of the platforms of the Communist Manifesto. So there you go. MP, how does injecting QE into the repo market encourage you? Boring. Actually, MP, they're not injecting QE into the repo market. They're actually injecting, they're intervening in the repo market into the tune of about 145 billion. And apart from that, they're also doing QE. So things are not great. So that's what I think the Fed and the powers that be think that a lot of people think that the QE is just for the repo market, but it's not. If they didn't, they're basically actually still helping the repo market, and they're doing QE. I thought that the QE was going to stop the help for the repo market, so it's actually not true. None says hit the like button. Yeah, that's right. We've got 267.5 viewers. We need more thumbs up. Why do we need that? Unfortunately, the Google, YouTube, how can I say, algorithms, when you thumb up videos, they keep making those when you go every day, when you go into YouTube, if you have thumbs up a video, they'll put that video in your list. That's why it helps. It's not, so that's just to help me. So never trust middlemen, not your keys. That's right, Parlando. John Middleton took early pension retirement. Dave Davis, what's your opinion about the spike in gold price on Friday and then back down? Yeah, Dave Davis, it was a little bit disappointing, but one thing I would say, and also silver also spiked quite a bit higher. I think they still look pretty good. We close above 1,500 in gold, and also silver is still looking pretty good as well. we'll have to see what happens tomorrow. Yeah, I think it's the other thing I wanted to talk about. I wanted to recommend a couple of things. One is an article I read. Let's see. I'll get a link here, and it's a guy that I like listening to or reading, and his name, he's called the Northman Trader, Sven Henrik, and he wrote an article called Welcome to Zombie Land. And I agree almost 100% with what he says. The other thing I wanted to recommend to the viewers is a video by Seething Frog. Many of you might know Seething Frog. This is his latest video the other day. It's called Food for Thought. So both this article and this video kind of encapsulate the way I'm thinking, right? So there you go. Andrew Trapman, like Mario. Hi, Andrew. Morning from Australia. Yeah, you're on Monday already, aren't you? Paul, gold or Bitcoin? Both, actually, Paul. I like precious metals and cryptocurrencies, even though I'm more weighted towards precious metals. But I have a significant amount of savings in cryptocurrencies, and I think they're not going to go away. R. Sinclair, what do you think of Martin North's view on gold? Is he the Australian guy? I'm not sure. I think they do good work with John Adams, Martin North. Yeah. And I think they're right about the Bank of England. They use other countries' gold to manipulate the gold price, because they use that gold to lease it out. And that's why the Germans, the Bundesbank, actually repatriated all their gold. Swedish Central Bank looking to raise rates to 0. Do you study Swedish tactic? Yeah, I've known the Swedish Central Bank has kept rates at negative. There's a bit of a move now. You know, even the powers that be, IMF, central bankers, they're starting to admit that negative interest rates are a fallacy and that it doesn't make sense. The problem is that the system is so heavily indebted right now that they need to keep rates very low. So good luck to this Swedish Central Bank. I think it's one of the oldest central banks in the world, by the way. Jan Daviland from Sweden. Hi, Jan. Nice to see you here. There's another guy that I really like. I think he was born in Denmark. He lived in Sweden, and he talks about all the conspiracy. What's his name? I forgot now. Anyway, let's get back to this. Anyway, hi, Butch. Billy, for some reason, he didn't want to come in the study. He wanted to stay in the kitchen. My wife and my daughter are in the kitchen. They're having a nice time. They're cooking dinner. And Billy just wanted to stay there, so I couldn't force him. But he'll be back. Billy will be back. Tom Taylor, good afternoon. Gold, I think gold buying opportunity. Anytime you have extra, you've been able and fortunate enough to have extra fiat currency, I personally try to convert it into gold or silver or even some crypto. Yeah, Ale Damergaard. I really recommend that guy. Thank you, Jan. And this is for all my viewers anywhere in the world. They need to listen to this guy, Ale Damergaard. Yeah, you guys need to listen to him. He's on top of things. No, the ever present cheerleader. Thumbs up. So today, the weather's getting quite wintry here, even though it's fall. But we had at my golf club, just talk a little bit about myself. They have a competition at the end of the year is Champions of Champions. So anyone that wins a competition at the golf club during the year, they get to play this. And I won a competition this year, and I've won one every year for the last 4 years. And I'm not trying to brag. I played fairly well, but the course has changed quite a bit. It's getting very wet and soggy, but I came second, so I'm pretty pleased with it, even though I didn't play the last 4 holes very well. I could have won it. But anyway, that's how golf goes. You win some and you lose some. And not only golf, it's the whole of life. You can't win everything, right? But I had a nice time. John Middleton, have Bitcoin but no wallet. I recommend you get a wallet, because if you don't have a wallet, you don't have Bitcoin, because someone else is holding it for you. I recommend Bitcoin. I think it's blockchain.info. That's where I keep my Bitcoin. Liverpool Film Club. I miss Billy as well. Glad he's okay. Yeah, Billy's fine. I took him out for a walk this morning. Billy is fine. He loves his walks. Christopher Bolin. Yeah, I've heard of that guy. He's good too. D. Ramos, helicopter money. It could be. It could be helicopter money, especially if you get new governments. Let's say if you get a Labour government in the UK, or what's her name, Elizabeth Warren, or Pocahontas, right, in the US. I saw that George Soros thinks Pocahontas is the best suited person to be president, right? So there we go. Anyway, I think it's all distractions, and that's why we need to focus on the money. Does that mean that I think money is everything in the world? No, I think the most important thing in the world is family, right? And health. But you do need to look after your finances as well, of course. Chimichanga. Hey, you've changed your the truth and money freedom. Hi, Chimichanga. Nice to see you. John Norris. Yeah, I agree. If the internet goes down, of course. But I think when it comes back up, there will always be the crypto there, of course. That's why I prefer physical gold and silver. The other thing I heard, what's his name? I don't know his name, the guy, Seething Frog. I really like him. He said he's building now a barn dominium. So it's a barn condominium. So that, I don't know if that's an American thing. In the UK, we call it a barn conversion. So he's looking to become more self-sufficient. That's an interesting thing as well. Harrison Hardcastle, Brexit going to happen. I think they're trying to drag it on and on and on. And it will happen in name, but will probably stay in the European Union, unfortunately. I think the only way to really get out is without a deal. YV, do you think we might go into a global reset followed by conversion to full digital currencies? Well, we could see a reset. The thing about digital currencies, we already have digital currencies, right? The dollar, the pound, the euro, it's all digital anyway. Very few people hold cash. I think what you mean is cryptocurrencies. That's completely different. Cryptocurrencies are decentralized. I think we need to differentiate between those two. So I don't know. We'll have to see. A reset just means that hard assets will be revalued, or tangible assets will be revalued a lot more, and paper assets will come off, because right now the scales are too warped, in my opinion. Paper assets are too overvalued, and tangible assets is too undervalued. So that's the reset for me. As for currencies, I don't know what's going to happen for currencies. I'm trying to see, I'm trying to get everyone's questions here. I've got quite a few people here, which is good, 350 almost. Family, George, how can a bad harvest this year in the US change the world market and the inflation? Well, I would say inflation basically is a monetary phenomenon. Yes, you might get spikes in commodity prices due to harvests and everything, but we've had massive inflation for the last 11 years. It's all the money printing. That's what I would say about that. Harrison Hardcastle, let's hope the euro implodes soon. Well, Harrison, I don't know why. I mean, all fiat currencies are doomed, not just the euro. So I'm not sure, I would rather hold precious metals than euros or Federal Reserve notes or Bank of England notes. They're all as bad as each other. Nicola, better to wait and see if property crashes in London and help my daughter buy a flat, or should I do it now? Well, the thing is, I look at property, my house that I have, it's all paid for and it's a good nest egg. But when we first bought our family home about 23 years ago, we didn't think of it as an investment. Yes, I had to take a mortgage. I had a pretty good job, and I've been able to pay it off. So that's what you have to think about. If your daughter is not going to be lumbered with a huge mortgage, and she has a fairly good income, I don't see why you shouldn't buy her a property. You might want to time it, yeah, but who knows? They might be able to keep it going for many more years, maybe 3 or 5 more years. So that's my view on that. But if you're a property speculator, that's a different story. The truth, money, freedom. Yeah, I've seen about that story about the Dutch central bank. I think that's very significant as well. I think that's big. That shows that central bankers are losing faith in themselves. They're actually admitting that. I remember years ago, maybe 5, 10, I don't know exactly when, there was I think it was the Dutch bottle makers or something, glass makers union. They wanted to put money into physical gold in their pension fund, and the Dutch central bank actually banned them from doing that. So the fact that the Dutch central bank is now admitting that gold is a good thing is quite significant. But I wonder if this news about the Dutch central bank has come out in Holland itself, right? You probably, if you go to Holland, go to Amsterdam and talk to people, they probably haven't even heard of the story, right? So that's what I would say about that. Isabella, CO2 hoax is the new world religion. I agree with that. Just before I started my live stream, I was talking to my wife and my daughter. My daughter, she's in her early 20s. She's kind of been brainwashed, I have to say, a little bit. But she actually told us, I think this Extinction Rebellion thing is a psychological operation. I said, well, good that you realize that. Yeah, it's just a step to global government, isn't it? It's all. I I will repeat. People should Google. I put his name here, George Hunt. Just Google that, and there's a video by George Hunt Unsaid. And this guy was involved in the not environmental movement, but in the environmental business. And he talks about in this video from 1992 how the Rothschilds are involved in this environmental or climate change movement, and they use the UN as an instrument. So it's not a good thing. Hopefully, people will wake up. D. Ramos, is he spamming? I haven't really even seen him. Yuan versus US dollar. Well, Alessandro, right now, what I tell people is to ignore fiat exchange rates and focus on precious metals. Be as it may, I think we're kind of stuck here, just above $1 by 7 yuan. Doesn't look like it's going to go much further. If there is a trade agreement, I guess the yuan will the dollar will go down, so we could go back below 7. And the more trouble there is with the trade negotiations, we could tend to see the yuan weaken or the dollar go up, right? So that's how I see it. Greta, yeah, she's just a tool, unfortunately. It's very sad, I think, because she's only a young girl, right? Only 16. Yeah, the Thames did freeze over. I think it was back in the 1700s, early 1700s. Andrew Skelton, nice to see you here, Andrew. Haven't heard from you for a while. Yeah. And I think acid rain extinction. Yeah, I remember the acid rain scaremongering. And I think, what's his name? Al Gore was warning that the ice caps were going to be melted, were going to melt by 2013. And here we are in 2019, right? Nicola, the thing is, the pound has dropped from 212 to the dollar about 12 years ago, and it's now 128, right? So property prices have gone up, but if the pound keeps dropping, property prices, it will be a good thing to have property. So that's the other thing you got to consider, your currency, right? If your currency is going down the tubes, it's good to have hard assets or property. All you got to make sure is not to have too much debt or a big mortgage, that is. Brexit 31st of October, that would be a good thing, but we'll have to see. We've only got 4 days, right? Vajra, curious your thoughts about paying off debt, saving precious metals. What if there's no way no one will get out of debt? Well, I've gotten out of debt. Debt basically is consuming something you can't afford, right? It's delaying payment to the future. So if you want to get out of debt, you need to live within your means. I know there's a lot of peer pressure, a lot of mind control, all the propaganda. You need to have that. You need to have your 2 or 3 holidays a year. You need to, I remember in the 80s when I went to university in the States, there's an advert about buying a home, right? And it said, you can have it all, right? So yeah, they want you to be in debt. You don't have to be in debt. There, you need to find that out for yourself. Dr. A and B, wages low and property prices high indicates correction. While the only reason property prices have been high is because the central bankers, the Bank of England, the only way to keep the banks afloat is to keep property prices high. And why is that? Because 2/3 of bank assets are in the property market. That helps people who have property, right? And it's hurting the average person with their wages. Yeah, I think that could be, that is true. We have to see a correction. Do you still feel like you're living in the UK? uh, yeah, I've been here since 1992. A lot has changed, but I do still feel like I live in the UK. There's still a lot of pluses and, of course, minuses from living here. I still like living here. I think the grass is always greener somewhere else. Johnson, Shawuntiel Johnson from Florida. What are your thoughts on what will people happen if student loans are forgiven? How will afford to continue their education? Well, student loans, if they're forgiven, they're going to help, of course, the people who still have those student loans. But the people who have paid them off are not going to feel very they're not going to feel great about that, because they're going to say, why did I have to pay that off? I could have waited, right? So I think it's a bit of a scam as well, this student loan thing. It's they're trying to get young people into debt, but be as it may, there you go. "37 minutes. Haven't been here that long." XRP or Ripple. Well, I have had some Ripple in the past. I divested from Ripple. I'm more into Bitcoin and EOS. A lot of people think it's the bankers' crypto, so I don't know. Not doing. Let's see where it is right now. Ripple. Bitcoin's doing quite well. Yeah, Ripple is just around 30 cents. Price wise, it hasn't really picked up that much. I'm going to stick with Bitcoin and EOS, but I don't know much about Ripple. Cody seems to think Ripple is it. I think people need to do their homework, even though I think it's just a free market. Andrew Skelton, Ripple is a corporation. Yeah, Andrew, that's right. You need to be in a crypto that is not a corporation, where you can't call the head office, right? That's what I would say. Hank McGurk, can I proffer an opinion about being shot in the head? Leslie Blackburn, yeah, I've heard that theory that Litecoin is silver to gold, Bitcoin is gold. Alessandro, thoughts about financialization? Well, I think financialization is on its way out. That's what we've had for the last 30, almost 40 years. Too much financialization. We need finance to be less important. We need the real world to be Uh, what the way I see finance is, it should be the tail, and the economy should be the dog, right? But right now, that tail is wagging the dog instead of the dog wagging the tail. That's what I think about financialization. Hopefully, it will decrease in importance. Credit is equal debt. That's right, Andrew. Um, Credit means also to believe, right? You trust someone. It's a loan. Hank McGurk, I was hoping to get an answer. Well, what's your question, Hank? I've got a lot of people here asking questions. Can I proffer an opinion without being shot in the head? Yeah, you can proffer an opinion. I'm not going to shoot you, Hank. Jeff Logue says money is debt. Well, right now, I think debt is credit, and I don't think money is debt, really. Money is the most marketable commodity, according to the Austrians. Not according to the Austrians. If you start out with barter, right? Barter, you exchange something that you've have a value for something of value that someone else has. All that money does is facilitate exchange, and money is the most marketable commodity. They've made money now debt, but I would say money is not debt. It is in our system, but it's been forced upon us by legal tender laws. Lead is liquid. Usury is interest, yeah. I've been reading a little bit about the Medici, the Renaissance bankers from Florence, and the way they got around usury is that they used to trade, right? And they used to trade with other countries, and they had different coins in other countries, so they would make a profit on the exchange between their coins. And that's how they used to get around usury or interest. But it got to a point where they're just exchanging money for the sake of exchanging, and that was called a dry exchange, that there is no goods exchanged, and that's bad as well, I think. And if you go back to the Federal Reserve, it was created in 1913. It came about and started operating in 1914, and they could only do discount commercial bills, like real business. But then you got World War One came about, and that was an excuse for them to allow people to just allow the Fed to actually take in U.S. Treasury debt, which was a dry exchange, really. And I think that's when everything started going downhill. Pablo, do you think the Dow will continue up, or is this it? Well, you see, the Dow and the S&P, they've been right around this top for almost 2 years, right? We'll have to see. But I was reading something from Northman Trader, Sven Henrik, and he was saying that usually when the stock market or anything is going up in value, the volume goes up, right? That's the law of markets. If things are dropping, volume goes down. It's a bear market. If there's consolidation, volume is like doesn't move. But we've had a bull market now, and volume is going down. So I don't know. I'd rather be long precious metals, but who knows? The Dow and the S&P could go up another few percent, and make new highs, but it doesn't look very like they have any momentum. Gold silver ratio will come down probably to 1 to 1. Wow, that would be a big thing. We have to see. D. Ramos, worldwide crash leading to the mark of the beast. Yeah, I mean, the powers that be always use crisis to implement rules that we would probably never accept. So hopefully that won't happen, but it is possible. Junior miners, Butchie Harding. They're just speculative play on gold. You need to, yeah, make sure you do your homework. But yeah, it's not going to be. The thing about it is that you might buy a company that has problems, and then you got gold going up, and that company doesn't do much, and the others do. So you got to do your homework. But it's a good. It's like a out of the money call option on gold junior miners. Sanjit Neogi, good evening, Sanjit. MACD, MACDY, Repo will go exponential mid-November. Well, it seems to be going that way, MACDY. PEH2, do you think power will get hit hard about question of non-QE? Maybe a bit, but the guys that attend and the girls that attend those press conferences, they're bought and paid for by the mainstream media, and they're not going to give them very hard questions. Hopefully they will, but who knows? Buy wool. Well, it's tangible wool, isn't it? Bill Perry, who created the Federal Reserve? Well, it was the major international bankers, right? The Rothschilds in London, the Warburgs, who were probably agents of the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the J.P. Morgans. That's who created the Federal Reserve, the richest bankers in the world. And I think they used the 1907 crisis as an excuse to create the Federal Reserve. All right, I'll take a few more questions, and then I'll call it a day. Right? It's been a good live stream. Quite a few people here. So let's see. D. Ramos, what's your thought on the USDA saying there is 20 to 30% shortage in this year's food supply? Well, I'm not surprised. I think you had a pretty bad. There's a lot of flooding, wasn't it, in the Midwest this year? So yeah, I'm not surprised about that. It could drive food prices higher. Shane Sturgis, America was founded by London Freemasons. You could be right, right, Shane. I went to the Bank of England Museum last year, and guess who used to own shares in the Bank of England? It was George Washington. Granted that those shares, he got possession of those shares because he married his wife, who was a widow, and her husband, he used to own the shares, right? But it was passed on to him. So yeah, you can see at the Bank of England Museum that the Bank of England actually paid dividends to George Washington. So I wouldn't be so I don't disagree with you. Just trying to get a couple more questions. Thank you, Andy. Tuesday. Yeah, would have liked to have won it, but you can't win them all. XRP, do you know the YouTube channel Gregory Mannarino? Yes, I do, XRP, Superman Punch, and I watch Greg Mannarino regularly. I think he's a good source of information. I know some people say that he's a Freemason. There are pictures of it, but I try to keep an open mind. I'm not a Freemason, of course, but anyway. Are his opinions right? Well, there are his opinions. you, I agree with a lot of things he talks about. Yeah, mostly, yeah, I would say so. Okay, just one more question. Just wait here a second. Philippic, have you watched the Justinian Deception? No, I haven't. I haven't watched that. So there you go. All right. Thanks again, everyone, for showing up for my live stream and for participating. I wish you all a great rest of the day, be it Sunday in the US or Monday in Australia. And I'll talk to you later. Take care. Bye.